So one of the great ways that I've identified to do analysis and consideration of your budget and insights on it is to use percentages. Percentage comparisons allow you to see how you're planning relative priorities for different activities within your budget. They allow you to see where certain things fit against the prior year, where things fit against your overall revenue, overall expenses. And that's a good way also to index yourself against other organizations that are similar. There are published indexes for a lot of organizations, which depend on percentages as a total expenses for payroll, as a percentage of revenue for the year, total percentage for administration as a percentage of your total expenses for the year. And so the C tab, the comparisons tab that I built into the budgeting ABCs template, allows you to do some simple consideration and analysis of some of these percentages. And so let me take you over there and I will show you what that looks like, and just so you can get a feel. This is definitely an area that you could log lots and lots of hours, lots and lots of thought. And I recommend that if you have it, but also would say you don't need to spend any more time on this than you have capacity to do so. So whatever is helpful to you is what you should spend your energy toward. So let's look at this together, and I'll give you a quick insight into how you might use it. And again, feel free, email budgeting@amservicesgroup.com if there's any way that I can help you further with the template. So here we go. All right, so after you have filled in your actuals and your numbers are here, and then you've gone through and projected a budget, this budget is still set as flat from the prior period. So just so you get a feel for how the comparisons will look, let me do a adjustment on this one. I'll do a 10% increase, an adjustment on this one, a 95% or 5% decrease, which would be 95% of original. And then say I'm expecting this income to double. So I'm going to make that double what it was before. And so let's go over to the comparisons tab and just see how some of those activities will affect your work. So once your information is collected here in the various places, the percentages will evaluate everything compared to 3 categories of activity. So as I mentioned in the overview, column D compares to the prior annualized period. So you can see those 3 things that I changed. One is showing a 10% increase. One is showing a 5% decrease. This one is showing that it's 200% of the prior year because I set it for the budget to double. And those things will only change to the extent that you make adjustments in that budget. Otherwise, you see income 4 and income 5, these are exactly the same because there were no changes made. So they're 100% of the prior period. But then another useful comparison that you can look at is your budget versus total income. And so you could see the this one is compared to the prior period. This one is compared to total income. So scroll down here, you'll see total income is showing up as 100%. So now it's evaluating how much of income 1, what percentage is income 1 of your total. So of your total income in the budget, 25,629, it's saying that income 1, 10,000 is about, just over 40%. And so this is a great way to look at relative weight of various income categories. And so we're about 40% dependent on income 1, roughly 25% in this budget on incomes 2 and 3. That's an important thing to know, because if one category of income is really heavy and maybe you are concerned about the sustainability of that income, then you might want to look at trying to get more of your income into other categories. If one is, in decline and you need to project that further, then it's important that you are seeing other categories of income picking up the relative weight. Column H is comparing against the total expense category. And this works for income, but also works for categories of expense. And so I'm just going to clear a couple things here so you can see. So this is saying that gross payroll is 55% of the total expense budget for the year. You see in the total expense line, it's 100%. So gross payroll of 55% of total expenses, depending on your industry, depending on what kind of business that you're in, may be entirely appropriate. For churches, 40 to 60% is normal. You know, I do a lot of my work in churches. But if you're in a goods industry where you'd expect to spend a large portion of your income on items rather than on payroll, then you would not want to see payroll as that high a percentage. And that's where looking at indexes that are common for your industry would be helpful here. But another thing that you can do is look at relative priority here of one category versus another. You wouldn't want to see that you're an organization that really values your people, and yet you're spending a lot more on administrative expense or marketing than you are on personnel and taking care of your team. And so seeing the relative percentages of your budget also gives you some insight into what's important. Now, what do you do after you look at these budget percentages and comparisons? Well, you tweak the budget. So as you identify things that you go, that doesn't make sense to me, or I don't want it to look like that. Well, then you go back over to B, go back over to your projected budget and say, you know what, I'm going to increase payroll by 25% by giving everybody on my team a raise. So I'm going to up that. Well, now I go and look, payroll is now up to 60% of my total expenses. And I may say, okay, that's a good number. I feel better about that. But all of these comparisons, analysis, considerations are things that will help you move toward generating a budget that you feel like reflects your priorities, reflects your goals, reflects what you want to see in your organization. So again, feel free to reach out if you have more questions. I've got one more video coming at you, and that's just going to walk you through the final tab so you understand how to work with that.